Pura vida. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change, and Action podcast. You are with me, your host, Simone Milasas. And today we have the lovely and the amazing Pam Houghteling. So welcome, Pam.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, thank you for being here. And let's set the scene a little bit. I'm in my casita at Lugar, and Pam is in her casita at Lugar. And we were horse riding the other day. And we were having a chat about numerous things. And I went, ooh, we should do a podcast on this. So here we are today. So there's a few various topics that we want to talk about, but there is a running theme about, I guess, like that asking for more in your life and leaning into that. I did a video after we were riding and put it on social, and I love it. One of Pam's friends reached out and just went, wow. And it inspired her as well to have a look at where she was not choosing something based on somebody else's point of view, which so many of us do that. It's like we don't choose something based on somebody else's point of view, our family. I mean, we have a really similar story about horse riding. My story, like many years ago when I was young, we used to go to, my cousins had a property in a place called Tamworth in New South Wales, and they had racehorses. Like we had racehorses, trotters is what they're called. And we used to go there pretty much nearly every second weekend for quite some time. And they had a lot of different animals on their property, but horses were the main thing. Like I remember the pigs and the sheep and everything, because I would go there and the adults would do the adult thing, and I would just like wander around the property for hours on end, just being on my own. I even remember them telling me stories about how when they were breeding the horses, and I'd sit on the fence, like right in front of the horses and watch, and they were all like, do we need to move Simone? Like with the stallion coming in. But they were like, if we tell her she can't be here, she's going to make sure she's here, and she's going to watch from somewhere else, like make it a big deal. So I would just sit on the fence and watch the horses breed, and not think anything of it. So, but the thing is, we used to go, and there were some horses that we used to ride, and I thought that I had this fear of horse riding for quite some time. And I was talking to my mother like many years ago, and she said to me, oh my God, I remember you just jumping on the back of horses and flying across the paddock with your long hair, because I had like long blonde hair, long hair just flying off. And I was so scared that you were going to fall. And I went, oh, that's not my fear. That's hers. So Pam has a really similar story, which I'm going to ask her to talk about. But the thing is, how many of you have a similar story, whether it's horse riding or something else, that you are not choosing something based on somebody else's point of view? And it could be a parent. So you don't even need to find where it is. But right now, anywhere that you stopped choosing, or you're choosing less of what you would like to choose, will you destroy and uncreate it and start to ask what is your reality with everything, so that you have infinite choice and infinite possibilities, and everything that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100, shorts, boys, provodes, creations, bases, and beyonds. And that is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which you can find out more about at theclearingstatement.com. We have the updated video with myself and Dr. Dane here. So Pam, tell me about you. What was your story with horses?
Well, so I was a kid who loved reading anything about horses and, all these horse stories and horse movies. And my two friends and I took quite a few riding lessons. We went to horse camps. This might surprise you, Simone. I was a very shy, not confident kid. And that also came out with the horses. I can remember one time in a lesson, I was trying to get my horse to trot, and the teacher's like, pretend it's your little brother and that he's not doing what you want. And it's like, boom, that horse started trotting.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. So I was often being an energy with the horse, which was not being a leader, now that I look back on it. But we were doing a jumping class, and I went over a jump, and I went head first over the horse, and the horse was amazing and stopped and everything, but I never got back on. And now with the access tools and some different clearings and being aware of things, I was realizing, I think my mother, who was watching, did not want me to get back on that horse. And I didn't. And it was years and years and years before I ever got on a horse again. And every time, like I'd be on a camping trip and people were doing a trail ride, or a lot of times at access classes, there's been horseback riding. And, at times I've tried it and I've done it a little bit, but honestly, what would go through my head is I have to get this absolutely right or I'm going to be hurt. And, I'm going to fall off. I might even be killed.
Wow. Okay, let's just pause for a moment there, because if you're listening to this, and because there's so, like, you and I are not an anomaly here. It's like there's a lot of people who have a really similar story. I mean, I had a massive accident off a horse once when I was following my friend Dr. Dane here at a gallop, and my horse threw me into all these rocks, and my butt landed on the rocks. Like my left butt cheek actually still, I can't feel it. Like the nerves are gone. And ever since then I was like, so everything that is, and everywhere that any of us think when you're on a horse that you're automatically just going to get thrown off or you're going to fall off. Yeah. It's like, rather than why would we not just automatically think we're going to stay on, and everything that is. So everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. Everything that is times a godzillion. Yeah. We destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100, shorts, spoilers, proverbs, creations, bases, and beyonds.
Yeah. And I would use the clearing statement. I would shift and change some things in a class. I'd go on a ride. It would be amazing. And then, the next time I was going to be around a horse, it was all there again. So there was that too. Like it seemed like something I couldn't get to the root of. Mm-hmm. And part of me was like, I would like to change this. And part of me was like, why bother? But I was, it's something like, I'll get it however many tons a car is, which is probably a much more lethal thing. And not even curious about it.
The why bother?
Yeah.
Do you have an awareness of what that is?
Oh, now I do. Yeah, because like when this really started to change was a few months ago, when in classes, the clearings about autonomy started coming up. And I realized, autonomy is about keeping separate and controlling things. And my whole, well, if I can just control it enough on this horse, I won't get hurt. Like I could see all that. And I actually started being able to change it. And, you could tell the story of how we got on this ride, but there was a moment where I got on a horse and I could actually receive from the horse. And now it's like this whole universe of possibilities from being with a horse and receiving from a horse, contributing to a horse. That's why bother. Like because I was cutting off me to be safe, or what I thought, if I control it enough, I'll be safe. Yeah. And the why bother is I can't show up in the world as me with that control system and need for safety. And, if I can't control it, I won't be okay in place.
So all of you control freaks out there. Yeah, I can put two hands up. It's like all of you control freaks out there, everywhere that you've decided that the control is like valid, and that's actually what is going to create and lead your life. If you're willing, it's your choice. Okay. When I POC and POD, if you've done access classes, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, this might be new to you. When I run the clearing statement, I can't make you do anything. First of all, I would always say, please don't trust me, trust you. Don't trust Pam, don't trust me, trust you. Trust what you know. I'm asking and hoping that through these podcasts that everybody may have a little bit more of them, or a lot more of them, and more awareness to, walk with this planet, and walk upon this planet in a much brighter, greater, happier, joyful, way. So if any of this contributes, that's great. So what I'm going to say is, if you have the point of view that you think controlling is going to create and lead your life, what if you let that go? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. What if there was something bigger and greater beyond control? Chaos. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100, shorts, boys, proverbs, creations, bases, and beyonds. So actually, I do want to tell the story about when we're in the pool, but I always tell the story from my side. So it'd be nice to tell the story from your side. So we were swimming in the pool
Yeah.
at Lugar, and I was talking about going horse riding. And Pam, the way I remember it is the energy or the way you were being was sort of like, no, I'm not going horse riding. I don't do that anymore, sort of thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, why not? What if you come with me? And I was
Yeah.
like, what if we go for a quiet, like it doesn't have to be a big ride. And I was like, on this side of the property, I said, we just, we find a really nice, gentle horse and we just go for a small ride, get the cowboys and blah, blah, blah. So that's my side. And then you said yes. So what was
Yeah.
it like for you?
Well, for me, there was another piece to it because you were talking about creating a ride with Gaia, who also was had her own things about it. And this part you don't know. Inside, I was like wanting to come, but I couldn't ask to come. Like it, so I went from, in the course of the conversation, I went from, horse thing isn't my thing, I don't do this, to something in how you were talking about it was like, yes. And yet I couldn't ask and say, this is what yes, something changed for me. I'd like to do this. And you looked at me and you actually said, would you like to come? And I was like, yes, I do. I want to come. I'm so surprised at myself and I'm shocked, but yes, I want to come with you guys. So,
well, and it was such a sweet ride. You and Gaia on horses who, could I say, like the horses were like, talk about perfect matches, like with the horses. And it was a beautiful ride. It was amazing. And if we fast forward, Pam ended up buying the horse.
yeah. Well, and there's another piece to that. So the conversation we were having, like a door was opening where this was possible for me, and something very different than just, well, I'll try going on the horse ride because, I feel left out or blah, blah, blah. It was a definite yes for my body and me. And I'd also been having some really different kind of stuff going on with my body. So it was really easy to be like, oh yeah, I can't with my body. But this was such a yes. And then we did this ride, which was absolutely amazing. And what I did on the ride was just everything that came up. I was like, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And be in space with me and the horse. And because things did, I thought of like, well, what if she moves fast and I can't stay on? Well, interesting point of view. I have that point of view. So I just kept being that space. And when there were some other people on the ride too. And when we got off, Diana said to me, how long have you had a horse? Or she might have even said, your horse. And I said, I don't have a horse yet. And it was really like, it was like, that was so different for me to go from, because like we were here this was at classes in October. We had been here in September. And there was even a conscious horse class and all the people riding and stuff. And it was like, no, like, and suddenly this door was open, and it was been willing to let go of some of the control and the autonomy, and I need to be separate. And I, like I could be with Baya, who's the horse. And so when I said not yet, and then they had like a meeting for horse owners, and I was like, well, I went to that. Like, let me check this out. And then I went up to Ugo, who like runs the horse stuff, and I was like, well, if I wanted to buy this horse, what was her name? And he said the price, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally do that. Like, and then it was about meeting her again. I wanted to go see her again. And it was the same thing. Like, basically, Simone, being on this horse, my whole being lights up, and I am so joyful. And I can be on her. I could just be standing next to her and like grooming her or whatever. And guys, I'm not a horse person. I've never, it's never.
Yes, you are now.
Now I am.
And I think when this podcast is being launched, we'll actually be at the Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider class. So there's another one here. And I highly recommend, we'll put a link to Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider in the subscription notes. So please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And there is Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider facilitators all over the world. We are attending the class as this launches with Cody Law, Alison Cox, and Sarah Watt, which to me is like, I went to that last class and oh my goodness, my skills with horses just increased so much. And I'm going to this class too, and I'm asking for it just to, triple, quadruple, like just expand into greater possibilities. I learned, like, I know it's, if you're listening to this and you're a horse person, you might be like me, but it's like, I learned how to take my saddle on and off. It's like, I learned how to go in and halter my horse. And then, so now, like you were mentioning, Pam, I love riding. My horse is called Pluma, and I love riding Pluma. And yet I love also going up and just haltering her, and we go for a walk and get her some grass and just being with her, like learning how to be with her too. And God, the connection that you can have and be with a horse is incredible. But you've got to be willing to be not controlling, out of control. And like that, like I said, I mentioned very briefly, chaos, right? Because if you have that sense of chaos, it's like, for me, the way I look at it is my horse and I are always working together, right? There's always this leadership going on. It's like, she is so good at me thinking something and she'll just do it, which I have a story to tell you in a minute. And she'll do it. And it's like, but it's like she looks after me, I look after her. And one of the things, every single time I get on her, I ask her, will you look after me? And I tell her, I'll look after you. Because I do think it's a partnership. It's not a one-way street. That's how I have been taught to be with horses. And that's how I enjoy being with horses as well. So, but I do want to say, it's like, I do want to do a little shout out to a call that myself and David Coopers have on the 13th. That's US time zone. We'll put it in the subscription notes as well. And it's called Stop Trying to Find a Solution and Dare to Ask. And 100% of the proceeds of that call are going to Lugar and to building a bridge here so that we can get to the other side with our horses. And so I would actually ask for your help. If you could sign up, it's $100 or more. You can pay more if you desire, or share it around, etc. And it's going to be a good call. I know that, because if you've listened to any of the podcasts, or Dr. David Kubis, he's a really good friend of mine, and we are brilliant at finding solutions. Like, that's a capacity of ours. But what we have both learned is there's something else beyond finding a solution. There is this daring to ask for what you actually desire. So the way we talked about this was to do with like business and money, etc., and projects, because we're always trying to find a solution. I mean, he's a lawyer by trade, so that's his job. But also literally going, what do we desire here? Let's dare to ask for something, right? So leaning into that moment. So there's that, and please come on the call. I would love it. Thank you so much for your support, and I'm asking for your help. Second piece is, I'm really looking at that second part of the call, of the dare to ask. And if you look at Pam and look at myself, both of us have had like a history with horses in some way, and yet we both stopped asking for something, and then we started asking for something and dared to ask for more. So
well, and what I say, as you're talking about that, everything I described of how I was with horses, of like, okay, I need to control everything and make sure I'm safe and blah blah blah. That's trying to fix. I spent years trying to fix my issue with horses, and it was when I actually started asking to change whatever this is. Like, because at that classes where we were talking about autonomy, like I could tell how much I was limiting myself. Now it's showing up with the horse thing, but it's how I was limiting myself in all kinds of ways. And so it was to stop trying to fix that and actually dare to ask to truly show up differently. And it came through the horse. That's one of the ways, but back to when I said why bother, and you jumped on that. It's like, why bother is because of me and what I can be in the world and receive in the world. And having now this engagement with Baya is one avenue of me showing up in the world in a different way and choosing to dare to ask.
Yeah. And I'm going to put in here too, it's like, I will admit that there is times that I go to, I should have started this years ago. Am I too old? or something like that, like and it's like, I'll just plod along on my horse rather than something different. I'm like, no, fuck that. It's like, I'm not too old for anything. Like, let's go. So that would sometimes show up as my why bother, and I'm like, Simone, stop it, So if you're out there and you've got your reason and justification for why bother, what if you destroyed and uncreated it? Right and one, good and bad, pock and pod, all 100 shorts, boys, proverbs, creations, spaces, and beyonds. So last night, I mean, you and I went for a ride the other day, and Alexis, one of the cowboys here, he had another friend of ours who's in a minimized horse, and he was taking around I guess it's a round pen, but it's got no fence. And he was running asabachi like around the thing and cantering, etc. And so last night I said to Alexis, can you teach me how to do that? Can you show me how to do that? Thinking sometime, I'm here for 4 weeks, So then I get this text from Hugo going, okay, Alexis and I are picking you up at your casa at 9 a.m. and they're coming down. And so with Pluma, my horse, and then we went down to this, round pen without a fence. I don't know what to call it. And so and it was so good. Oh my God, I learned so much. Alexis was on my horse Pluma, and he was talking to me about how to move with her, etc. And, everything from my body, the way I'm thinking at her, like what I'm asking for her, how I'm moving my legs, everything. And so and so then I jumped on too, and it was like learning to drive. Like I felt like I was learning to ride a horse again. Like when you're like learning to drive, you like put your blinker on, looking in your vision mirror, look in the side mirror, and there's all these different movements, and then all of a sudden you just drive. So that's what I'm asking for. And he was like, a couple more lessons, and I think you'll be great at this, because I was ended up like cantering and galloping around and etc. and changing it around. But then I was so happy. It was so awesome. And I'm the only one on a horse, and we're heading back to the stables. And Alexis was on my golf cart, and Hugo was on a motorbike in front of me. And Alexis, because he's speaking Spanish, and I'm English speaking too, he looks at me and he goes, he was like, like vamos, meaning, why don't you ask her to go a little bit faster than a walk, is what I got now, right? And I was like, looked at him, and I have this trust of Alexis too. So I just went, oh, okay. So in my head, I just went, vamos. Kicked Boomer on the sides, like gave her the thing. We just went galloping all the way up. But here's the thing, Pam, I was concentrating on my hips.
Yeah.
Driving, and I'm like concentrating on my hips, and I was like, yeah. And then I went, and it's all in a nanosecond. Then I went, fuck, she's not going to stop because she's going to the stables.
Right.
And a horse's mentality is stables are close. That means food, whatever, And then I went, oh, and then she goes up ahead. It's just like, what? And we nearly ran into him on the bike. And then, so anyway, I managed to stop her. And then Alexis comes up behind. He was laughing. I was laughing. Hugo's face was just like, what just happened? And I was like, my fault. I said, Pluma did exactly what I asked her to do. I should have just asked her to walk a little bit faster instead of what I did. But it was so much fun. And then I got back and hung out with her for a while and watched her. And then I went my body was so happy, Pam. And then I went for a run right before this podcast, because I wanted to run too. And I was like, God, how, everything in my world and my body was just like exuberant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would we not choose to live like that each and every day? So for me, I started as I was running, I'm like, what else am I not daring to ask for? Like, where am I playing it safe? Where am I being complacent? Is it with business? Is it with money? Is it with friendships, relationships, lovers, horse riding, facilitating, like everything? Where am I being complacent? And what if I destroyed and uncreated everywhere that I'm comfortable, and I lean into and ask for what I desire? So that's where I'm at today. And my body is just like the sense of like molecules moving, but a sense of peace all at the same time. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll have more of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, another conversation, we have all these conversations in the pool.
Yes, we do. The pool's a great place for a cocktail and some conversations. I quite often have my earbuds in and make phone calls while I just walk around the pool.
Well, I was just saying to you the other day, because there's a class in Australia that I would have gone to for 10 years, right? And I was, for the first time, I was asking questions and it was no, no, no. And I was like, okay, I don't think I'm coming to this. And you asked me, for more, like what's going on. And like that in combination with the miraculous, call that the teleseries that Dane's been doing, like I realized I I never truly asked about it. I said, "Oh, my body, oh, like it's no, so oh good." It's a no. And all of a sudden, it's like there's possibilities there. And it's a whole different thing to ask questions and have all these possibilities. And then, maybe it ends up I don't go to this class. Maybe I do, but but now I'm being a space of where I make magic happen.
Mm.
Whereas before I was just kind of like going, oh, it's kind of very this reality, like, oh yeah, I'm getting old.
Well, the
uh,
way you spoke about it, it had more of a conclusion to it.
yeah,
Whereas I think
totally.
it's really beautiful the way you just said now you may go or you may not go, but it's not from conclusion, it's from being in question. And
Yeah.
that's what we refer to. And the creations part in the clearing statement stands for realms of creation. And realms of creation is like question, choice, possibility, and chaos. So yeah, like when I was like, so the class is called Being the Source, and it's in March this year at Uluru, which a lot of people overseas would call it Ayers Rock, but the traditional name is Uluru. It's a big red rock in the middle of Australia, which, there's a lot of theories, etc., which they say was part of the creation of the entirety of the planet. And it's absolutely amazing being in the desert, any desert, but the Australian desert is amazing. So that's why I was like, how come you're not coming? So I like that you came out of conclusion. But then yesterday in the pool too, you said, you know what? I looked up and the tickets were $12,000 to fly business class. And she said, now they're $6,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, but that's magic and miracles. Like that's the universe, contributing to you and supporting. And I like, guys, I get the piece I really want you to get here with this conversation is there is no right and wrong. Like Pam going or not going is not right or wrong. It's a
No.
choice. But when you go to a conclusion of like, I can't have that, I can't do that, that's not possible, you've just concluded your life and you've stopped being in question. What if you were always in question and function from that realms of creation and the realms of possibility? So here's a process for you. What realms of creation and realms of possibility can you and your body be for all eternity with ease, joy, and glory? And everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100, shorts, boys, proverbids, creations, bases, and beyonds, because there's so much more that's possible than what you are currently choosing. Which brings me to also talking about El Lugar, where we are.
Can I say one more thing about
Yeah,
that?
go for it.
Yeah, because from that space of conclusion, I was also judging myself, because
Right,
it's being the source class and the certified I haven't missed a certified facilitators class, except
right,
during COVID when everybody was online in like 10 years. So I was
right.
like, oh, I'm wrong. And now I have no right or wrong in my universe.
Just a choice.
It's just a choice, and it's fun exploring the possibilities, and
Mm,
that there's that excitement of knowing I can create things and create something different.
yeah,
And it's just a choice.
yeah. I love that. Thank you. And so, what I wanted to talk about is our adventures and exploration of daring to ask with Elugar as well. So, Elugar, again, we will have a link in the subscription notes here. But if you want to check it out, it's on Instagram and the website. And the website's just been redone. It's so beautiful. It's www.ellugar.com, ELLUGAR. And what Elugar stands for is Spanish for the place. And we named it The Place based on a book that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, wrote called The Place. And if you haven't read that or heard that, it's on Audible too. It's such a beautiful, brilliant book. And for me, the first time I ever read that book, I was like, holy shit, this is everything that I knew was possible on the planet. From the way Gary talks about the communion that you have and be with the land, with animals, with plants. And also, I mean, there's a great sex scene in it. And it's like, for me, I'm like, yeah, that's how sex should be, is from that energy, or how you can commune with another being, etc., and yourself, and everything from like the wind on your cheeks. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful story. So I highly recommend getting that book as well. And Lugar, this property that we have in Costa Rica, oh my goodness, does it make the book come alive in so many ways. So what has this been like for you since the beginning, Pam?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you know this, but well, for years we've been coming to Costa Rica for classes, and I've come to classes, and I did not like Costa Rica. I didn't like being here. I was willing to be here to go to classes. And the reason this is funny is like now I've spent probably 100 days a year in Costa Rica. But and as the property where El Lugar is built, as that was being found and acquired and all that stuff, we'd come do day trips when we were in Costa Rica for classes, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful and stuff. I didn't have any particular connection with it. And the time we did a day trip that was right after, like, it was really starting to happen and be created in a more tangible way, where there was investment possibilities and things like that. And I can remember I could coming here and I was walking on the road, and I wanted to be part of creating the place. And I was just asking the universe, like, whatever it takes, I want to have an investment here. And what was so cool, it's that dare to ask, because I knew as I was asking it that I was really making the demand of myself, asking the universe, and it totally, I knew it was possible. Like, I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but it was like, yes, I am choosing this. And one of the things I realized is, because my life was pretty easy and happy, like, I didn't have a big enough ask. And this was that big ask. And, and I thought, oh, it might take me years, but I'm doing this. Within 3 months, a lot in my life changed, and I was able to do the investment. And it was like, okay, this is amazing.
Do you want to talk about what changed?
Yeah, actually, my husband died. And, which was like a total shock. And also, having the access tools and being able to be like present with it and stuff, it, like, what I'd say is I could receive the gifts of it, as well as the there was always like the grief and the change and the ever, like, it was a very intense period of time. But it's like,
it's a very intense period of time, but I wanted to mention that because I know a lot of people who have had someone, like their partner, etc., die. And of course we go to the grief, and of course we go to the, what is life like without them, etc. But what I've noticed is there's always this gift. It's like, what if, death is this person leaving the body? But I'm amazed at some of the people I know who've had someone really close to them die, and how that has gifted this person into leaping into something different and greater that they would not have chosen if that person was still alive. Like, I think we have to look at like that gift of death and the celebration of death, rather than it's all just grief and dismal. So I just wanted to point that out, because it's like, what if we looked at everything in a different way?
Well, for me, there's like that, there's someone who's not here who was, and that, what that creates for you. But then, we all, like, there's all these other points of view that can make you suffer more, because like all the people who are like, oh, he was so young. Well, it just was what it was. And if I was just present with what it is, then, like, I could be fine and grieving at the same time. Whereas if it's like, oh, this means this and this means this and now this, and blah 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 blah, then you suffer with it. And so it was to me, one of the gifts of all of that was like the total power of being fully present with whatever is, no matter what, and with no point of view, and you can do anything.
Yeah. So you ended up investing in Lugar.
I did. And I started becoming someone who absolutely loves being in Costa Rica. When I invested, because, part of the investment is you get some free nights, I thought I'd never use them. Like I was like, oh, I'll still come for classes, stuff. And it was actually, so El Lugar started, the buildings and construction started in March of 2020. And it must have been 2022, maybe. I can't remember the years, but I was at a class with David Caddy, who was, very involved in the creation here. And he was saying, I don't get why investors don't come and visit. Like it wasn't open yet to the public, but we could come and see it and stay in a casita and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And I went there. Maybe it was 2023. I can't remember the timeline of things.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I've never been somewhere so incredible. It is so nurturing. It's nurturing and peaceful. Yeah. And the peaceful isn't about people. Like I can be here with 80, 100 people and it's peaceful. It's space. I've had times where I arrive here and, I had a whole day of meetings planned and I get on the meetings. It's like, there's no brain cells. I cannot cognitively function. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm just space. Tell me what we're here for. And so to me, El Lugar invites you to a whole different sense of being.
Yeah, I want to say something with that though too, because I was looking at this and I've been, because we've admitted we're being control freaks, right? So how much when you go on a meeting is there that level of control because you go, oh, I know what I'm going to do, I know what I'm going to say, and it's got that more conclusionary energy to it and result driven.
I've got to make this happen.
Yeah. And most people in business go to, this has to be result driven. No, what if it doesn't? What if you're in question? So I find too, what I've been like, one of the things that Gary Douglas said in his Conversations in Consciousness, which is a monthly call that he does 2 a month, and it's absolutely brilliant, a membership. Yeah. We'll put that in the show notes. And I mean, Heaven Dane, all of us have been talking about it for years, but there was something about how he said it one day on one of the calls when he said, what if you let consciousness lead you? And I've been taught, and I think I spoke about in a previous podcast, I've been using that as a tool and a question with everything. What if I let consciousness lead me? So if I let consciousness lead me, what am I choosing? So even if you went into a meeting and it's like, let consciousness lead us. Okay, so now what? And we're in question. Where's this heading? Is this working? Did it like start being in question? And I'm noticing that it's like following the energy is what we would say, rather than trying to work everything out. And we spend our lives trying to work everything out rather than literally following the energy and saying, okay, so what's next? What's going to create something greater here? Like I'm looking at the moment at basically moving assets. I've got a house up for sale in Maroochy River in Queensland at the moment. I'll put that link also in the show notes. And I'm asking for a certain amount with that. And, I would like to purchase another casita here. Why not? ¿Por qué no? So, because this so matches the energy of a future that I would like to have in my life, but also contribute to others having this too. So Lugar is, I don't know what percentage built it is, but you can come and stay here. It's open. We have classes here. There's a great restaurant down at the pool, but we haven't built the big venue yet. It's like, it's going to be, I think it was definitely the biggest venue in Costa Rica. It's going to be massive. It's like, I think it's got like 17 translation booths built in there too. And this restaurant, that's a 2-story restaurant. As we were riding past the other day, I said, Pam, let's picture ourselves like celebrating and drinking champagne up there and watching the sunset, because it will have the most epic view,
Yeah.
and all these other casitas that are still, to be built, etc. So there is still investment open as well. So I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. And there's different ways to invest. You don't have to buy a whole casita, but you can. As Pam mentioned, you get, some free nights throughout the year, which is so fun to come and use those. But there's also bonds, which I am going to actually start buying some bonds. So if I buy them every year, it's basically like investing with my share trading. I have share trading, and some of those give dividends. So you're getting dividends. Once the place is completed, then you'll be getting paid on the dividends. So that's also available if you're interested as well. But I want to just add with this is, if you'd said to me like 15 years ago, Simone, you're going to own a horse in Costa Rica, you're going to own some, because I've got quite a few investments here. You're going to own a bunch of investments here at Costa Rica, and have a private casita, which is going to be built in Costa Rica. I'd be like, what? Yeah. And you're also going to be part owner of a castle in Italy. I'd be like, you're crazy. I'm an Australian. And what we tend to do is, wherever you're born, it's like you tend to go, oh, okay, so I can create something in this vicinity, like this geographical comfort zone, but I can't have the entirety of the world. Yes, you can have the entirety of the world. No matter where you are, it's like everything is possible for you and everything is available. So whether you choose to come visit us here at Lugar or invest or anything like that, what I'm asking, I know Pam is too, is dare to ask.
Yeah.
Lean in. What is it that you would like? Like, I have an affinity with Italy as well. I love it. And it's like, I love being in Italy. That also does something, with my body, the vibration, the frequency. Where in the world do you have that vibration, that frequency that just creates that immense joy and gratitude and happy for you and your body, your being in your body? And for what reason are you not choosing it? What if you start to choose that and choose something different? Because this is your life. It's like, in 50 years' time, do you want to be bitching and moaning about what you didn't choose? Or what if you chose it today?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I come here, I'd say probably about every 2 months, whether it's for 5 days or 3 weeks. It changes all the time. And I had a friend who was like, I don't get why you keep going there. And then she came to visit. She came here in December. She's like, okay, now I get it. It's demanding that you be more. And every time I come, things with my body that have been bothering me, I'm able to work them out. Things in my life that aren't working, I'm able to shift and change in a very, I don't know, just so much more ease. And it invites me to then bring that with me into my everyday life. So every time I come to El Lugar, when I'm home, I'm able to create in such a different way. So don't come here. It's terrible.
So Pam, I've got a couple of questions that I want to end with for you. And I want to ask you, because this podcast is called Choice, Change, and Action. Mm-hmm. What would you like to choose this year that you have not yet chosen?
I would like, the first thing that pops up for me is taking access bars to businesses where I live. It's something that I have thought of. I have connections. I have, I have this whole history of being a business person in my town. And I haven't taken action. And the action would be, get out the bars information and have ease with talking about it, so I'm not stumbling over my words. I live in a town.
It's so funny because you are so brilliant at when you get up in classes and you're giving people information. So everything that is and that point of view that you think that you're stumbling over words instead of actually just speaking fluently, where you just try and uncreate it.
Yes.
All right, wrong, good and bad, pop and pod, all 100, shorts, boys, provids, creations, bases, and beyonds. I'm glad you mentioned
I don't need to practice.
Yeah. So I'm going to put some videos in the show notes about bars in business. We've got one on working with athletes and in offices, etc. They're really cool videos. And gosh, some businesses have had some amazing stuff show up from this. So, okay. So next question is.
Let me say one more thing about that, because you can hold me accountable. So I live in a town where I can just send something to the local newspaper and they'll say, oh, Pam's in business. She's doing this.
Nice. I like it. So you've actually got the road, just the pathway there.
I just have to take the step and actually do it. Yes.
Okay. So you have to take the action. Choice, change,
I have to take the action.
All right. Yeah. So then the next thing is there anything you'd like to change this year?
Yes. I would like to add more fun. I had the gift and pleasure of having a session with Gary Douglas recently. And I said, I'm very practical, and I can, I could do so much and, make things work and blah, blah, blah. And I don't do a lot of asking, like, what would really be fun for me and like nurturing for me? Because like I'm good all the time, like it's always like an amazing life. And so he said, well, what would you actually, what would you actually like your life to be that's beyond what you've been asking for? So right now I'm just even like, I don't even know what to ask for. So I'm just starting to say, what could I ask for that would be more fun, greater, and a lot more ease,
More joy.
more
Well, I can
joy.
tell you, writing with you
Writing
the other
by
day. Yeah, well, writing with you the other day, there was definitely joy in your world and joy in my world. So more of that, please.
yes.
Cool. So I would like to say, Pam, thank you so much for being on here today with me. You are such a gift of magnitude, and whatever I can contribute to more joy in your life and your world and your reality, I'm here. We got this.
Thank you. Thank you so
So
much for having me here. It's been amazing
you're so
conversation.
welcome. Is there, if you could say, if you had the whole world, every single person in the world listening to you right now, and you could give them one tool or one question, what would it be?
Well, the first thing is just, what if everything you think you can't change, you can?
Yep.
And so I would actually say, what's right about this I'm not getting, and
Mm-hmm.
what else is possible?
Cool.
And to truly ask that, not just like, oh, I'm saying the words. That to me is what shifted from our conversation in the pool, where I was in conclusion about us going to Australia, to having possibilities now, is I'm truly asking, oh, like, what is possible with this? Like, what can I create?
Yeah.
And what will be fun for me? I haven't been asking that one. Now I'm asking that one too. And I think Australia sounds really fun.
It will be hot, but it will be fun.
It will be fun.
Basically from like 10, 11 a.m. till 2, 3, stay in a pool or air conditioning. And you're good. So, okay. Well, Jane, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your brilliance, and thank you everybody for listening. And please, give us I'm going to ask too, if you give us a review wherever you listen or watch this. We are on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, I would love to have you subscribe. Don't just listen, subscribe, take action. Like every single one of you, and the choice you make contributes to something different here on the planet. And that's what Access Consciousness is all about. So what if you could have more of you today? So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.